Good evening. I'm Sinkhole Sam, and this is Oops, I Cryptid Again. Have you ever heard of a cryptid? After today, you will. We are going over recent sightings of legendary beasts and break down the mystery of a supposed unsolved murder. We will laugh, we will cry, and most importantly, we will learn about cryptids. Before we can get into the incredible encounters reported to our viewers, we must first define what a cryptid is. Many people have grown up with the legends of the Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, but not everybody knows the term. By definition, a cryptid is a creature from myth and stories that people claim to exist, but have not been proven to exist. Let's dive into some local sightings of cryptids we know are real. The hodag, a spiny lizard-type creature, is native to the Wisconsin woods, so to see a sighting here in Wisconsin is no surprise. Native to small-town Rhinelander, the hodag prefers to avoid people, only showing themselves to the lumberjacks that work in the area. Much to the surprise of Rhinelander locals, last Friday at 2:47 p.m., a hodag was spotted wandering into a local candy shop, Jessica's Sweet Treats. The lone creature was able to push open the door to the establishment and went straight for the hard maple candies. Experts suggest that the hodag got separated from its pack and wandered to the candy shop, using the smell of the maple candy as a guide. The hodag has since relocated its pack and is safely back in the woods. The jackalope, a rabbit with antlers, was also spotted in Wisconsin recently, which is a surprise given that it is native to Wyoming. Despite this, one jackalope was seen by an eyewitness relaxing at Cave Point County Park in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. Looks like this cryptid traded grassy fields for Lake Michigan and is loving it. These are amazing cryptid sightings that have been reported to us, but our executive producer went out into the wild to see if they could find a cryptid of their own. Let's see how that went. Oof, that could have gone better. Well, better luck next time. While I could talk about cryptids all day, we have a very special guest with us. Please welcome Dr. Isabel to our show. Good evening, Doctor. It is a pleasure to have such a decorated cryptozoologist on our show. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very fine myself. Thank you very much. We're all good. We're very good. I'm curious to know, how did you become involved in the world of cryptids?
Well, I have been interested in cryptozoology since I was a little girl. In fact, it was my dad who first got me into it. He was a bit of an amateur cryptozoologist. We would go out looking for Bigfoot during our summer vacations. So that's a little bit of an odd childhood, but it got me started down the path.
Well, we all have to start somewhere. Now, if you could have a cryptid as a pet, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, wow, that is an interesting question. And you bring up a good point because a lot of people are interested in having these animals as pets, but I am a firm believer that these are wild animals to be tamed. I'm not sure I would want to invite any of them into my house.
No, fair enough, fair enough. Very wild creatures, very in their nature. But speaking of wild encounters, have you ever had an encounter with a cryptid?
Of course, I mean, you don't get to be a doctor in cryptozoology. You don't get a PhD without having some hands on experience?
No, yeah, very understandable, but a necessary question nonetheless. So, very fascinating.
Exactly, exactly.
So I, Sinkhole Sam, have never had a true cryptid encounter, but I've certainly seen enough footage to prove their existence, to myself at least. How do you deal with the disbelievers that say cryptids don't exist?
Well, Sam, there are always going to be unbelievers. There's always going to be someone who looks at the evidence that you have piled in front of you and they're going to say, that is bull. They're not going to believe you. And honestly, we're not here to persuade the masses. We're here to learn and educate ourselves about these magnificent creatures. And if we can gather so much amount of data, then all we have to do is put this information in front of people and they can decide for themselves if they're going to be a believer.
No, yeah, that's very insightful, Doctor. I do believe you've changed my viewpoint on dealing with said naysayers. Now, this may be the most difficult question I've prepared, so it's okay if you need a moment to think about what this answer is, but what is your favorite cryptid?
You are absolutely right. That is a difficult question. I would have trouble picking just one, but I think I am a true Wisconsin girly at heart. Love hodags. Those are one of the cutest little things I have ever seen. So it was very appropriate that you opened with that in your show.
Well, thank you very much. That's a great choice. Despite what my name, Sinkhole Sam, suggests, I am quite partial to the dairy fairy myself, the Christmas cryptid of New Hampshire. Well, it looks like our time is almost up. Do you have any last words for our audience, Doctor?
Just to always keep searching for more information and just keep up the interest in cryptids.
Well said. Well, we've been lucky to review wholesome cryptids, but some cryptids spell out danger for those they encounter. Many of these mysterious creatures have sharp teeth, large claws, and a drive for blood. Local man Josh Prick learned that the hard way. When we come back from break, we'll dive into the strange case of the Josh Prick murder. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Oops, I Cryptid Again. While cryptids are creatures to be revered, they're also creatures to fear. Local man Josh Prick was an entirely ordinary man with a job at a totally ordinary television station. He had one bedroom apartment with 3 goldfish and a lizard. He even had a loving girlfriend, Marie, of approximately 21 days. Everything was going his way. That is, until he died violently. Merely 3 weeks ago, Josh went on an impromptu camping trip. It was there at his scheduled campsite that his body was found completely charred. This is a very sad turn of events, especially given that before leaving for his trip, Josh was reported saying, "Oh boy, oh golly, I sure hope I survive this." Truly heartbreaking. Humble viewer, you may be asking, Sinkhole Sam, what does this have to do with cryptids? Well, I'll tell you. Josh just so happened to camp in the very woods that Mothman was reported having been seen in just 1 month prior. After the initial investigation, police suspected foul play, and in our expert and professional opinions, the producers at Oops, I Cryptid Again agree. Even though officials deny it, it is all too clear that Mothman killed Josh Prick. Witness testimony places Mothman fleeing the scene of the crime, only something a guilty person or cryptid would do. In recent years, Mothman has gained popularity within the cryptid community as a fluffy and friendly creature. But this shocking homicide brings us back to the Mothman's roots of terrorizing West Virginian teenagers as they drive home from a sock hop or a soda shop. In remembrance of Josh Brick, we've put together a memorial video in his honor. Enjoy and keep tissues at the ready.
I met Josh in elementary school, and ever since then we've been in all the same classes. I could always count on him. He let me cheat off of all of his exams, and now that he's gone, I don't know if I'm gonna pass organic chemistry.
At first, I thought he faked his death, you know. He had so much credit card debt. He didn't pay his taxes. He even had like a bunch of fines at the library. I guess denial's the first stage of grief, right? Ever since they found his body burnt beyond recognition with his wallet next to him, I mean, you just can't deny it anymore.
Josh was just an average guy. You know, you never think that this would happen to anyone, and you realize it can. I didn't even know that he liked camping. I mean, the trip was last minute, and he wanted to go, and I was like, okay, and just makes you realize that you wish it could have been prevented. You think about how it could have been prevented, but yeah, it's just where I'm at.
I can't believe that this happened. I don't know, we've been friends for so long. It came out of the blue. Like, I can't believe he's gone. I'm gonna miss him so much. Like, Derek meant the world to me.
His name was Josh.
Who?
We here at Oops, I Cryptid Again thank the brave friends and family who gave their testimony. They were so distraught, they couldn't even bring themselves to mention his killer, Mothman. Here to talk further about the truth of the tragedy is Josh Prick's twin brother, Jorsh. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jorsh. I understand you were the only witness to your twin brother's death. This must be very hard for you to talk about.
Thank you. Yes, it is difficult to talk about. That being said, I can hardly resist a chance in the spotlight. To shed light on my brother's death, of course.
I understand that you've seen Mothman kill your brother, but there is one inconsistency I hope you can clear up for me and our viewers.
I can't imagine any inconsistencies in this totally airtight story, but sure, go ahead.
Your brother's body was burned to a crisp, but there are no parts of the Mothman legend that claim he breathes fire. Could this possibly be a new development in Mothman's lore?
Oh, you see, Mothman had a blowtorch.
A blowtorch?
Yeah, a blowtorch. Burned him right to a crisp. The screams were agonizing.
That is fascinating. We know Mothman has hands, but who knew he was capable of this? What was it about Josh that attracted Mothman, do you think?
Who knows, really? It could be his devilish good looks and winning smile. He also had some beef jerky on him.
That's just awful. All that jerky gone to waste. Jorsh, if you could say anything to Mothman, what would you say?
I would say, Mothman, I wish you could have saved his hair. Jorsh had hair that I could only dream of growing.
Well, for
Jorsh
his sake,
me.
I hope Mothman is listening. Well, that looks like that's all the time we have for this interview. Jorsh, thank you so much for your time. Say, has anyone ever told you look a lot like Josh?
I gotta go.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Oops, I Cryptid Again. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and we hope you learned something. Stay curious and keep an eye out for cryptids near you.